being an entrepreneur sounds cool, but the reality of building a business is very, very difficult. Every level that you hit, there's a lot of things that suck that you just won't want to do. What you're capable of is on the other side. I don't feel like it.
And if you're committed to what it is that you're trying to do, nothing is going to stop you from getting there. Welcome back to another episode of Real Business Owners with myself, Trevor Cowley. Today we have a second-time guest, Brian Augustine. We go back a few years.
Absolutely. We go back.
What is it? 4 years, something like that.
December 2021.
Oh, you're talking about the episode.
Yes, but even before then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe 5 years, something like that. Brian has an interesting story. Brian was an individual that was a part of a franchise. The franchise is Everbowl. Locked arms with Jeff Fenster as Jeff was kind of, making this transition into franchising. Was he even a franchise yet when you came in?
No, actually, franchising wasn't really on the table at the time.
Did he have multiple locations?
He had one location when I started.
What were you doing for him? What did you get hired for?
So I got hired. Technically, I was Jeff's first strategic hire.
Okay.
So
you were the A player when he started taking it serious?
Well, he had a vision to open multiple locations, right?
Gotcha.
Because of early feedback in that first store in San Diego.
Yeah.
People were just
eating it up, literally.
What we were doing, and his vision was like crafting superfood.
Yeah.
Healthier ingredients, healthier living, healthier lifestyle. And he wanted to do 50 locations, right? Everybody that opens a restaurant wants to do 50, right?
Yeah, that's a big dream.
No big deal. As you know, I've been with Trader Joe's for 12 years.
Yeah.
I opened up 4 buildings for them in multiple states. So I had a kind of a industry experience in opening retail establishments.
Well, you were saying prior to the podcast that they would send you into ones that were struggling and stuff as well to, maybe breathe life back into it.
To help move the needle a little bit.
What were some of the things that you would do when you would walk into a location that was struggling?
It was very similar across each location. That kind of was just, and it wasn't necessarily down completely. It was just the team needed a little bit of somebody who was locking arms, as you said, with him and saying, this is how you do it.
Just reinforcing what they should have already been doing,
work ethic.
But they ended up drifting away from that over a period of time.
Right. And being able to give them feedback that whether it was positive or constructive criticism, that felt like it was real and authentic.
Yeah.
And let them know, hey, you're doing a great job at this specifically, or let's work on this. I know you can do it. Kind of encouraging.
I'm a big believer in, when you are, whether it's an employee or, it doesn't matter who you're communicating with, but when you're going to communicate with them in regards to something that they have to change and make better, you should highlight what they are doing good first so they know that you're not there just to, rip them a new asshole and say, hey, you this, and just kind of beat them down, right? You kind of got to build them up a little bit. You have to have equity there in order to, start taking some of the withdrawals.
Building equity in your employees and your team before you make withdrawals.
So when you're giving advice, it's not coming from a bad place. It's like, dude, I see where you're great. You're great here, 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 and here. Here's where we need to work on. So it's coming from a place where it's easier to be receptive of that information.
It is. It's a little bit of an older philosophy where it's like a positive sandwich, right? Where you say, hey, you know what? I just want to let you know you're doing a great job here, here, and here, but I need you to work on this, right? You inserted the but, so it immediately diluted the good, and then you end with another good. And you know what? You also are really good with customers. The way you engage with customers is amazing. So if you can learn, this is where like moving a little bit to the next tier in management, if you're just in like retail management, right?
Well, any business owner's in some form of management. You're managing human beings and people. This is human behavior we're talking about.
Correct. If you're able as a real business owner to pull somebody aside and let them know where they need to improve without adding the sandwich, you'll be better for it. That's what I'm learning now, where I used to do that. Hey, you know what you're doing? That's like patting them on the butt. It dilutes the bad.
So you think you should go directly after the bad?
And as you said first, though, which is really important, is building that trust and building that positive bank account, because if you withdraw without adding those positive, 3-to-1 is what they recommend. 3-to-1. So
3 positives to 1 negative.
Yeah, in throughout the relationship with your employees.
Yeah.
And you should be able to improve the culture if it needs improving, or you're able to build a solid foundation if you're just building, if you're starting out. So versus a lot of people, like our brains are wired negatively, right? For self-preservation, for protection.
Yeah.
Right. So we always see what's wrong. You're going to walk into your business and see what's wrong. Typically, you're not going to see what's right.
Yeah.
Because it ends up being wallpaper.
Yeah.
But if you can learn and train your brain to see the good and catch, I think we talked about catch people doing something right.
Yeah.
The energy shifts, the culture shifts. You build off of that. So when there is an issue with somebody, it doesn't feel like an attack. And in this generation,
everybody feels attacked.
If everybody feels attacked,
everybody's a victim, right? So how do you make them not a victim? By making sure that they know that the place that it's coming from is a good place. It's not coming from malice or, that's why like kids are more receptive to coaches than they are parents, because their parents are always like, stop it, shut up, blah, blah, like always harping on their kids, and then when you say, hey, do it like this, they don't really listen as much because they've already got to the point where they're starting to tune you out, because at the end of the day, most often you're telling them what not to do or what they're doing wrong, and you're trying to mold them. And in reality, when it's coming from a third party and they say the same thing that you said, hey, hold the bat like this or do it like this, they're far more receptive to it, because when they're going into that environment, they know that the coach is there to build them up, make them better, do all of those things. So therefore it's like, okay, that I will hold the bat like that. And it's like, I've been telling you that forever, or throw like this or do like that. And so it's the same thing with employees. You are essentially the parent of the business, right? And so if you're always going in there saying what's wrong, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. Like that, if there was one thing that I ever did right in business, it was focusing on building people up, having secret handshakes with people. I wouldn't even start my day without greeting every single person that was in the organization. It didn't matter if there was 45 people. I go around and give knuckles to 100% of people before I go sit at my desk, because there are going to be difficult conversations that will be had, but they're going to know that, dude, Trevor's a good dude. We have a good relationship. This is only coming from a place where he wants to see me perform better. And usually I'll tie that in with raises and stuff like that. Like, hey, I want to see you win. I want to see you level up. I want to give you more money and see you elevate with inside of the organization. But that's not going to happen if you continue to approach it like this. And so for me, I'm just really looking out for you and making sure that you have, a long stint here in this company and that you can thrive here. Right. But the reality is if I accept this type of standard or accept this type of behavior, that's allowing other people to do it, which is a detriment to the entire organization, because you'll get what you tolerate. And I can't tolerate that here because other people will see that. And so let's make sure next time there's not a next time, and that you start showing up on time,
right,
or whatever the issue is, right? People in the organization, they really look up to you. And if you're showing up 5-10 minutes late, then they might think it's okay to do that or whatever it may be, right?
Leaving early.
You're building them up, saying that people look up to you. I did that quite a bit in some of the one-on-ones and stuff that I had. I said, hey, just so that you know whether you like it or not, you have an amazing personality and people turn to you, they look up to you. And whether you ask for it or not, there's a small group of people that follow you in a manner in which you act. And they're going to believe that that's the proper way to act with inside of the organization. And it's just, we can't have that. Mm-hmm. And so it's not only you that you're affecting other people that actually look up to you. And we want to make sure that you're showing up in a certain manner in which helps them also.
You mentioned parents and coaches and which type of who's listening to who more.
Yeah.
At home, they probably hear a lot of don't.
Yeah.
Like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot of negative.
Yeah.
And then a coach is saying, hey, I want you to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And they're saying it in like an inspirational tone.
Yeah.
Right. But they're not the parent. They don't have to deal with them at home.
Yeah.
It's a different environment, but it's still very similar. As you said, it's human behavior. So if I can get you to do what I want you to do and I can coach that and I follow up on that, what you follow up on gets done
Yeah.
typically. So remove more of the don'ts and just say, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
And again, going back to perhaps why I was moved around a lot was I saw the good in people too. I think we're all souls. We all have value.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's underperforming, maybe ask them a question about, hey, are you okay? I think I talked about that in the last podcast. I still ask that to this day. 4 years later, if you are a little bit more human with your employees, you're going to get more out of them. And so also leading by example, as you said, leading with energy, with enthusiasm, and with effort. And when they see that, things start changing over time. It takes a little bit of time, but they'll see you show up every day with your best, your shirt tucked in, your pants pulled up and a belt on, maybe spritz on a little cologne so you smell good. You're going to get some things done doing that.
Yeah. So you transition from Trader Joe's to Everbowl.
Mm-hmm.
And he's evolved from this guy that was one of the first hires to, starting to help open up franchises, and you would go from location to location, travel quite a bit to the point of owning your own franchises. How many franchises do you have now?
So now I have 4.
Okay.
Yep.
So he made the progression. And like I said to you, I mean, we spoke last week when you were in the office, just chit-chatting for a couple hours. That conversation, I believe I shared with you that I had with one of my business partners. I wouldn't wish entrepreneurship on anybody when I was having just kind of a tough day.
Yes.
How has it been so far?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's harder, but there's nothing more rewarding.
Yeah.
It gets me out of bed. It keeps me up. I feel like an RBO for the first time.
Yeah.
Versus, maybe you think about imposter syndrome when you're coming up in an upstart company because you never really know if you're going to make it.
Yeah.
We started off with 1 store with a vision of 50, and now we're at tonight 104 in a couple hours.
Yeah. Owning more on the list, right?
Owning your own, especially if you want these to succeed in your, you have 4 different if you have 20 and you have infrastructure in place and
layers of,
and you have HR and you have district managers.
You're handling most of
when you own 3 to 4 locations, you are the GM for every location.
Yeah.
And at sometimes you're a shift leader.
Yeah.
So you need to go in there and lead by example.
Yeah.
You need to go in there and scoop acai bowls and make smoothies and make lemonades.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that.
Yeah. I would think that's one of the better parts of it is just doing the doing and interacting with customers and humans and people. It's like the non-fun stuff is actually the business stuff, like traveling from one location to the other.
Boise to St. George.
Boise to St. You've got a 8-hour drive or however long these drives are, a lot of time in the car just trying to, build something of value, right? Like, was that a goal of yours for a long time, is to have your own business? Or were you always like, I just want to be an A player with inside of organizations? And did that change over time to where it's like, man, I feel like I want a piece of the pie myself. I want to be in the game.
Well, I think a term that you used on one of your podcasts was intrapreneur.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been a valuable intrapreneur within the Everbowl organization. And that's where I feel like I'm at peace right now in my life, is being that player versus trying to go off and do my own thing and build another.
So the easy thing would have been to continue to just be the entrepreneur rather than going into doing it for yourself.
Well, I still am. I mean, I wear 3 hats with the company. So I'm still an executive.
Okay.
My technical title is head of sales. So I'm head of national franchise sales. I was a chief development officer prior to this role, but that was the title change prior to coming out to Utah last summer. Multiple unit franchise owner and an investor in the company. So I still have an ability to be creative with menus and training processes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the cool thing about Jeff and Trevor is that they are open to suggestions. As Jeff would always say, the best idea in McDonald's came from a franchisee. So they're still looking for that type of innovation at 100 units.
What was the best?
I
thing
believe
at
it was the
McDonald's?
Egg McMuffin or the Big Mac. If I'm not mistaken, somebody could correct me on that, but
Yeah.
it was one of those top selling products.
Huh. So what's been the most challenging part of making that transition? Was it moving and going from California to Utah, or has that been easy for you? Has it been the managing of, the employees on a day-to-day basis? Is it just the crunching of the numbers and figuring out how to make it work, Because in franchises, some months, I mean, especially when you're talking about acai bowls or smoothies, something that's cold, usually in the wintertime, things would slow down just a little bit in spring when people are trying to get out of the wintertime slump and they want to venture out, or in the summertime, it's obviously a hotter commodity, right? So you see obviously the ebb and flows of the sales, and there's probably sales cycles in terms of seasons, right?
Yep. We're about as seasonal as other brands that are selling fresh products.
Okay.
So when it does get cold, sales they can cycle down a little bit.
Yeah.
And when it's warm, of course, everybody's looking for an acai bowl.
And in your case, in St. George, the location you talked about, school
and
university, right?
Yeah, proximity to schools, it's going to affect the business.
Tens of thousands of students when they go home for the summertime. If it's right down the street, then sales can kind of tighten up a little bit there too.
Yeah, they get a little softer.
What's something that somebody should be looking at in terms of like a proper location, whether it's a franchise or not? Like if somebody wanted to be in a location that has high likelihood to succeed, what are some of the metrics that people would be looking at? Like, what do you guys look at?
Yeah. So you look at, let's just take this location here in St. George, for instance. It is in a row of basically top tier brands.
Yeah.
Habit, Yogurtland,
Chick-fil-A,
Pieology, Chick-fil-A, Einstein, Firehouse, and Teriyaki Madness.
Yeah.
And AT&T on the corner, right? But you're sandwiched amongst the giants.
Yeah.
So if you're into franchising, and franchising can be a great path to being successful, making money outside of a corporate box, right? Look for the locations that are, on a main thoroughfare with great co-tenants, a great mix of tenants. And then
they have a term for that. Where there's like one, is it an anchor? So we have an anchor tenant or something like that.
The next phase would be if you have a great anchor, which would be like here would be a Harmon's or Albertsons or top tier grocery.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the country would be Trader Joe's or Publix, H-E-B in Texas.
So that would be a good location because it's naturally going to drive traffic.
And then you can get data from your broker. And there's a term called VPD, which is vehicles per day. So depending on how many vehicles per day.
Ask that.
And I know there was a time, and I could again be corrected on this, but Crumble brand, they had a certain amount of VPD per day that they would approve or deny a location, because it sets the franchisee up for success when there's enough vehicles going by every day. And typically that state department will have that data for you. And if you're campus adjacent, if you can get a location that is close to a university, those are great locations. They tend to be good locations. We can't guarantee success.
Yeah.
And then of course the economics, look at the average unit volume for the brand that you're pursuing. And then you would want your occupancy cost to be between 8% and 12% of the annual gross revenue.
Okay.
So you're not overspending, keeping your overhead low, increasing your profitability as an owner.
What's made it difficult being in the industry so far? Like, is it finding good help? Because
I think to kind of answer that question you said earlier is what's been hard, what's been challenging, and that's it is finding great people to stay a little bit longer. Than 6 months at this age.
It's like a high turnover in terms of employees. At a lower ticket item. Something like, McDonald's has a lower ticket item, but then they get to the point where they're like offering scholarships or this, or they're starting to have to get into the game of offering benefits and stuff like that. But if you're not necessarily a McDonald's doing 2 million in revenue, it makes it a little bit more difficult to say, hey, here's a lifetime opportunity. You kind of have to know going into certain industries or certain businesses that there is going to be a volume of turnover, and you got to be okay with that, right?
You know what I've done, Trevor, is and your listeners out there thinking about this or owning their own business, and if their team is under 20 years old, most of my team, in fact, all of them in the state are between 16 and 19 years old.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be there longer than a year for the majority of the time, right?
And that's part of keeping your overhead low too.
Correct.
Right? You're probably not going to pay somebody that's 40 that has a mortgage, enough money, right?
Really not a career.
I mean, yeah, it really isn't, and that comes with the territory, right? And there's going to be challenges with that, but anything that has upside also is going to have challenges. Every business, every industry has their challenges, right? In this industry, that might be the challenge. In a different industry, it could be something completely different.
Right. How do you keep them interested for more than 6 to 8 months? Right. And what's the strategy between hiring your employees? What age group, right? You can't discriminate. So I approach it now where I've shifted a little bit from before is I have 4 seasons and I look at like I'm a coach. And I have a team, and every 3 months we're basically, let's look at the roster, let's look at our schedule, because schedules are always shifting, and let's bring some more on if we need it. And then people are leaving for school, they're leaving because they got another job, right? When I was 16, 17, and 18, I think between those 3 years, I probably had like 5 jobs.
Yeah.
Finding employees that want to work for you.
Yeah.
And that enjoy their job, that enjoy each other, where you build some camaraderie. How can I keep them and like build them up a little bit for the short time that they're with me? I can't perform miracles, but I have expectations of them that aren't like how I would treat the business. Like Gary Vee always talks about, you're an owner. Don't expect your employees to care as much.
Yeah.
I take that same mindset into these stores.
Yeah.
It's like, I care about you guys. I hope you know that. I care about the business. I don't expect you to care as much as I do, but I have these things laid out for you that I need you to do.
Yeah.
Make it simple.
You ever have people like Trevor's that were working at Wingers? Have you had some horror stories?
Trevor's.
In the team, 7-year-old Trevor
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can say their names.
Yeah.
First, don't hire this person. Don't hire.
I try and encourage them and try and say, hey, you could do it. You can do it. You can get here earlier.
Yeah.
Go to bed earlier. And I'll say stuff straight up to them like that. And they're like, oh, Brian, like, he's real.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like sugarcoat everything.
Yeah.
Well,
the listeners might know that at one point I was an owner of that store that you have, and
I wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Like
Really?
I think about that. I wouldn't be insane because you opened that store. You helped.
Then it
run
wouldn't.
that store.
Yeah. It wouldn't
Does that make
either.
sense?
Yeah. Since I opened it and it's here, you were able to take it over. You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank
I'm
you.
just kidding. I think you're welcome.
Well,
it's a good store. It really is. And the people that were in there and are in there have always, to me anyways, from the outside, been good.
Mm-hmm.
I would go in and have conversations with the employees. And I told you last week that I'd go in there with a couple $100 and
hook them up,
season them a little bit. And they were really, really taken back and shocked by a couple dollars handed to them. Just, they feel seen, heard, and appreciated. Like it's so crazy how easy it is to stand out as an employer anymore these days, because people just really don't care about people anymore. They're more lost in their own turmoil and their own stresses and their own problems and their own struggles. And they look at people just as one of their stresses and problems or struggles, rather than just human beings that might have their own stresses, struggles, or problems. But creating that relationship with them, it goes a long, long way. Even advice.
Yeah.
I'd sit there and chat with them and they'd want to come sit down with me and just, hey, what should I do here, or this, or I'm behind on my car payment, or that. I'm like, sell your car and get a cheaper one, or,
Yep.
And then I would share a story of where I had to downgrade my life in order to upgrade my life, and so just kind of coaching basically is what you said, because then they know, one, you're investing time. Time is one of the most important currencies that we all have. And, the youth don't realize it because they're heavy in that currency, right? They have a lot of time ahead of them, but spending time with people and having that one-on-one interaction, even for 5, 10, 15 minutes, it means the world to people. I know for me, looking back on my history, I never had somebody when I was young pull me aside and have a conversation with me, give me advice, give me a couple dollars, that type of stuff. And
rare.
Literally how I managed was I would look at the experiences that I had as an employee growing up and some of the things that I didn't like about it. For instance, I worked at a big company. There was probably like 60 employees, and the owner would just kind of pop in and pop out, not really ever say what's up. Like would go directly to the team leaders or management or whatever. And all you wanted as a 19-year-old kid is for the owner to be like, dude, what's up? I'm hearing great things about you. Keep it up. And that would have been an absolute game changer. You're telling me the owner is hearing something about me? I'm on his radar? Like you didn't get stuff like that. And it's like the youth crave it. They crave it because they don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. They don't feel appreciated. Like they're looking for validation out in the world, and the world's not going to give them that validation. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
They feel like the size of an ant. They don't have a huge following, or somebody's prettier, somebody has more money. They feel behind in their life. They're wondering if they're making the right choices. And an adult, a peer to them that is saying, I see you. Somebody that has had a level of success that you would hope to have one day is creating a one-on-one interaction with you. Like, dude, that means a lot. And I don't think people understand like how big of a game changer it actually is in an organization. I still have people, one guy that worked for us for 14 years. He doesn't work for us anymore, but he's off doing his own thing, which is amazing. But even when he bounced, dude, he sent me a text and said how much he appreciated it.
The daily,
just the daily connection. Dude, the connection, bro. You were always real with me. Yes, we had our battles over the years, but I always knew you were keeping it 100% real with me. The thing is when you're doing the right thing, it usually doesn't like magically say, hey, you did the right thing. Like that comes later. And so because of the non-instant gratification that this type of strategy has, people just don't do it. You know what I mean? And so like
it doesn't show up on the bottom line. And that's why a lot of, I believe, corporate America is less excited or eager to promote culture.
Yeah. Dude, I was literally on a run and I was sitting there thinking about like a business just as a whole. Right. And I'm like, it's kind of like a house, and I was like, first off, the lot itself is the industry that you pick, right? This is where I want to live.
Yep.
Right. So that industry that's where you want to live.
You picked it.
That
lot didn't pick you.
So, then you have to pour the foundation. What's the foundation of a business? It's really the systems and the processes, right? That's the foundation of a business, because you can do a bunch of revenue, but if you don't have proper systems and it's going to be gone, right? And then when I framed for like 6 months. I wasn't good at it.
Okay.
I was more the grunt guy, but I was like, this is shitty. I'm not, it's always shitty when you're doing something that you don't feel good doing because you're not good at it. It's hard to feel good when you're not good at something, you know what I mean? And you feel like that you're just kind of a grunt guy.
I loved control.
I loved being outside, I probably should have applied myself more in terms of like trying to learn, because there's so many valuable things in the construction world in terms of the hard work and the actual skill that you develop that you can do in your home if something happens, or build whatever you want to build,
If you have like a leak on your property that you need to fix, you would be
dude,
really good.
I wouldn't want to go to the parts store 3 times to fix a sprinkler. You know what I mean? But I did get a lot of the blue collar guys reaching out, and God, thank you. You guys
got it solved.
I did get it solved. I got it fixed, but the blue collar guys that follow the account really poured life into me and said, man,
bro,
25 years in the industry, bro, people still go back to the parts store a couple times. They all saying is if you don't go to parts store twice, it's not done right, or something like that. But when you're framing a house, you have this base layer. It's like a green 2x4, whatever that they put down, right?
Pressure treated,
right? And then from there, you're going to build the walls. So for me, that's kind of like the lead generation. And then when you go vertical with the walls, that's kind of like your cells, right? Your cell, you can go 2 stories, 3, you can build your cells up, but you've got to have something to actually put those walls onto that's pressure treated, right? And that's your lead generation process. Once you have that figured out, you can scale up from there, right? And it's just a sales thing. And then the roof was like management, overseeing everything below it, right? The systems and the processes, the lead generation, the cells, all of that stuff, right? And then I was like, the nails that hold it all together is really the culture of the business. Now, all of the features that are, on the outside or the inside of the house, that's the people. And guess what happens with a house over time? You're going to change some of your features.
Yep.
So the people in your organization will change. You may remodel a part of your home. You may re-landscape it or adjust something or whatever. Those things are movable parts inside of the structure or right outside of the structure. But to me, that's like, if you're going to build a good business, like you're going to build a good house, those are the things that you're going to really want to figure out, right?
Absolutely.
Is the systems and processes, your lead generation, be able to scale with your sales. Then you come in with kind of upper management overseeing the whole thing, the roof on it, protecting it. And then the nails that hold it all together is going to be the culture that you build. And then, the people are going to be interchangeable over the course of time. That's just part of it.
Part of the culture too should be, where I think some people out there feel like it's not talked about enough. It's not just high fives and pizza parties.
Yeah.
Part of a good culture, we talk about coaching and parenting and being a teacher and educator, is being able to have the tougher conversations and how those conversations can correlate into some metrics, some data to help drive your business forward.
Yeah.
In fiscally being healthy and responsible.
Yeah.
Versus, there's a good guy. He's a good, he's a high five guy.
Well, there is a line where you build.
How have you infused that with your own businesses, where it's part of your culture to make sure that you're staying fit, right?
Well, I don't even really necessarily. At one point, this was pre-COVID, when COVID happened, kind of fell to the wayside for a little bit, but I did workout Wednesdays. Every single Wednesday we would meet at the university that you're talking about, and they have the track and the stadium stairs, all of that stuff. And anybody that showed up 4 times in a row got a bonus. But if you missed one time, it would start back over. And it got to the point where the group would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we were out, suffering together early in the morning, running the track, running the stairs, doing push-ups, so we had kind of like a little pre-workout, not pre-workout as in caffeine, but a little pre-workout plan. Like this is what we're going to do today, and do as many as you possibly can, in terms of some of the stairs and, whatever it may be. And so I really think though, in terms of, I've watched it over at another one of our companies, is people are getting more and more healthy and more fit. They're starting to make it a priority, and we don't do workout Wednesdays over there, but Coulter, that runs that organization, goes to the gym every single day at the exact same time on their lunch break. And all of a sudden one person joined, then another person joined, and then another person joined. So I don't think it's as much just harping, like saying, hey, you got to do this, got to do this. I think a big part of leadership, the majority of leadership, if you ask me, is actually just leading by example and be infectious with who you are as an individual and how you live your life. And if they see you living a life in a certain manner and they're around you and they're like, damn, I love his energy. I love the way that they're choosing to operate and live. I want to be a part of that. People want to be a part of things that make them better, but like not if you just go to them and say, hey, you need to get better. No. They'll come to that conclusion themselves. It's almost like going to a drug addict and saying, hey, you should really quit using drugs.
Yeah. Right.
And they're like, sure. Like you're not going to convince somebody to do that until they've convinced themselves to do that.
Leading by example is a great way to implement change.
Yeah.
Right? And there is a book out there that's kind of got a cult following right now. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. Have you heard of this one yet?
Never heard of it.
Okay. Well, the gentleman owns a 3-star restaurant in New York called 11 Madison Park.
Okay.
And he had this goal. He wanted to be number one. So he took his team, and that's a lofty goal, like being ranked 50th and getting to,
have to leapfrog a lot of people.
You do. So he took his team to the number one place. And like the mindset would be like, hey, let's look at everything they're doing, right? But what happens when you take your team to a competitor and just tell them to look at what they're doing?
And they get to experience it.
And they get to see it. And it's like, but then you take that and copy it back in, let's say in my stores. And it's like, now I'm just copying the competitor. So what is that? Like, how am I really getting better? I'm just taking what else is done. I'm like diluting the market with the same thing, which is what a lot of people do. Nothing wrong with that. Not a bad strategy. But how are you going to get to be number one? Because you got to be, what are they?
Well, you would have to do something different than them in order to leapfrog them. Yes, you could do what they do, but what's the bolt-on that you're going to have after the fact?
The interesting thing is like, I just thought this was so interesting how to kind of make some big changes, some improvements, is look at what they're not doing right and lean in on that. So they found that they weren't doing coffee that well and they weren't doing beer that well. They would treat the people ordering wine like, tell them what part of the world it came from and all the different this and that and all the different characteristics about wine. But if somebody was ordering a beer, they were looked at like sideways. Like, you're ordering a beer here? Well, you lean into those things. So I think that's a key thing for people looking to get their business better is look at competitors. Always keep your head on a swivel. I do. I'm always looking. Yeah. I'm always reading reviews.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart thing to do without getting lost in the trenches and forgetting about your vision. But when they're doing something that isn't that great, I'll key in on that and be like, they're sloppy, they're messy, they're not friendly. And when you have a competitor that's like good and they got a little bit of a cult following in your market, then you could look at them and say, I'm friendlier. I know my team is awesome. We're way better at customer experience. And I think we're way cleaner. If you walk into my store, like you won't find a coconut flake on the ground, as interesting as that might sound. I think that's the recipe for success and for winning is consistency. Consistently better at the details. Right?
Look how consistent they've been. They get 18-year-olds to say my pleasure.
How do you do that? Years and years of just
systems and processes. Yeah. That's their foundation. I guarantee you that, and I haven't been through their training. I haven't heard what their training's like, but I guarantee you they reinforce. Here's the problem is most people start a business and then they get 1 employee, 2 employees, 3 employees. Then it gets to the point where like, holy shit, we need to really create systems and processes. And then when you create the systems and processes, the current employees that you have usually revolt against it.
Of course.
They revolt against the systems and processes because it's change. And we already know 95% of our habits are just subconscious. We don't want to go against what we already know. That's why self-improvement and self-development is so important. But that's also why it's extremely difficult, because you're literally confronting the version of you that you are today and creating friction with that version of you in order to try to get better, right? Yep. So you're now creating friction with an employee saying, hey, we're trying to get better. And now they have to change their habits. And if habits were easy to change, then everybody would be a fucking superhero,
Seriously.
right?
Yep.
And everyone would be ripped and everyone would be wealthy and everyone would be happy. That's like the most difficult thing to do, is change the habits of a human being. I love overcoming objections and people challenging people's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If they didn't want to move forward, like I loved shit like that. Like trying to figure out why they didn't want to move forward, you know, and utilizing their current situation against them in order to help them make progress, because they have real data right there in front of them that their current situation is something that they're not happy with. And there's this opportunity in order to make progress. And if you make the decision as the version of you today,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably not going to make the best decision because you are where you are. So that by default means that you have to make a decision that's just so outside of the box, that's not your normal. So just because you're hesitating right now, that tells me that this is something that you wouldn't normally do, right? If anything, that's a sign that we're now starting to go down a path that gives you an opportunity out of the situation that you're in, right? Like trying to reframe their perspective. I loved that.
And I absolutely enjoy the job that I have now as head of franchise sales. I love it. I get to talk to people from New York to Hawaii,
Yeah.
Georgia,
Yeah.
Florida, all the time with the same, they saw Jeff on a podcast, or they walked into a store in Orlando. They saw us online. They're doing their research on acai brands, because a lot of people, you know, going back to pre-Everbowl, I wanted to open up my own smoothie shop. There's a lot of us out there that wanted to do their own smoothie, their own bagel.
Anybody that likes healthy stuff, you know that there's a lack in the marketplace for healthy stuff.
So you go into Google and you type in what? Smoothie franchise, acai bowl franchise. Yeah. And guess who comes up now? You know, 5 years later, after announcing that we're going to be a franchise system now, after opening up 27 private locations, and now we're ranked up there. So I have the privilege, I get to talk to these people, and I get to tell them a little bit about our story, learn about them, about their hopes and dreams and visions and goals, and then hopefully guide them to that store opening, because it's really about being a business owner. It's really about, hey, it's not the legalities of it. It's the compliance, which is boring. Although I have to coach them on that too.
Yeah.
It's what does it feel like to be an Everbowl store owner? What does it feel like to be any franchise owner, right? And when you're doing your due diligence, do you have somebody there like me who owns his own and enjoys it still 8.5 years later? Mm. And the way I kind of got into this position was, at the time our headquarters is still in San Diego. Jeff's office was next to me, and I just knocked on the door and I was like, hey, we got these leads coming in, right, through the CRM that they just bought. And next thing you know, you got 10, 12, 20 leads coming in.
Yeah.
After announcing that we're franchising, and who's going to man the leads? So I said, give me a shot at doing it. I'll make the call. And next thing you know, you kind of like figure out your own voice when you're speaking with people who want to franchise. And we're an authentic brand, genuine, and we want to do right by people. And so to make sure that you understand the entire process and all of our systems involved, the help you're going to get with marketing, with training, with your real estate and your site development, what type of data are you going to have? Who's going to be there for me at each step of this journey? Because that's important. You don't want to just go in where it's like one guy, kind of handling the whole situation, because you won't be as successful unless you have a team behind you. So it's not franchise sales. It's almost like franchise guide. So I enjoy it too. Just like how you were saying, like understanding what people's holdup might be, or pause or hesitation, or what type of version of themselves they're trying to get
it's
to.
A bullshit rebuttal that they have, or a belief system that
it's usually a fear.
Yeah.
Right. It's usually a fear of something.
Yeah.
They're calling you. They inquired for a reason. they want out of something. Maybe they're going through a divorce, a challenging time in their life that's personal. Maybe they got some money from an inheritance, or they sold a business and they want something else. Or they're in corporate making a good salary, but they want freedom. And that's what this can do. This can get you a little bit of freedom. So yeah, it's fun, man. And even the people that are tire kickers, I got to talk to them for 20, 30 minutes, hear their story.
Call them strokers back in the day.
And just
where they would say all the right things, and then at the end they're like, oh,
I mean, you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
And
I'll call you that, you know.
In this industry, close rate's pretty low.
Yeah.
So
it's a competitive world.
If you can get in the mindset of every call is like important.
Yeah.
Every call is a customer that walked into my store.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in. Yeah. So treat it right, do it right, work hard, show up early, show up every day. I think that's with anything. Have your processes and,
Is there a story where you convinced somebody to move forward that was like, I don't know, bullshit.
Trevor, a lot of people are just, they love the brand.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that's why I did it. That's why I did it. Legit. One, I love acai bowls, period. And I was like, bro, I don't care. I just want one here. I want.
Yes. Selfishly, you want to get.
Yeah. I want that option available to me. And I'm like, if I want it available to me, then maybe there's other people out there like me that want it available to them. Like looking around the marketplace, I used to tell people, I'm like, only pick 3 spots in town to eat. Why? Because 900, and if there's 1,000 of them, 997 of them are going to be garbage. It's going to be terrible. So that means that you have a high likelihood of making a bad choice. So when I wanted to get healthy, I was like, okay, I'm going to limit it to these 3 places. I give my mind the freedom to decide to where it still feels like it has choices, but the choices are limited.
Mm-hmm.
But every one of those choices, I already know what option I'm going to get on the menu there that are healthy. One of them was Everbowl. One of them was Viva Chicken.
Okay.
And then one of them was like Costa Vida.
Right.
Because I would get like the Baja Bowl. You just get rice, beans, and whatever protein, either steak or chicken. And I just wouldn't smother it in cheese and sauce. I would just tell them to put some of their mango salsa on it. And that's what I would use for kind of like my seasoning, right?
Yeah.
And so I limited my options, and it made it far easier for me to eat healthy on a day-to-day basis and actually feel good, especially if you're in sales in any shape or form, bro. You go out and have a burger and fries and then go back into the office. Whew.
Look at the delta between closing times on a car lot, right? Or business opportunities to selling. Maybe you have some people listening that are in blue collar selling roofs. We have a buddy that does that in the South, to a franchise or a home.
Yeah.
So we're talking months of a timeline for people to be able to do the proper research or their due diligence.
Yeah.
For those that are new, because I would say 60 to 70% are the first time they've ever looked into franchising, right? Entry level, versus somebody that's like straight and narrow path. Like, we want this, we're ready to go, which I've had a couple people recently do that just because of belief.
Yeah.
It's the belief in the
brand. They don't
brand.
need a sales call. They're just
they
like,
don't.
hey, how do we go
You
about?
You don't need to worry about timelines. You don't need to worry about
How do we start?
process. It's like, how do I take that brand? Because I'm going to go win over here with that flag.
Yeah.
I'm taking the flag and I'm planning it. We have one of our first franchisees. She's opening her 4th store this month. And she started in August of 2021. So in 4 she's opened 1 a year.
Mm.
That's how you can make
all in the same like general area, or do they go all
in
over the place?
In a metro area?
I mean, you're all over the place.
If you can,
you're in you know what I mean?
Yeah. So there's an hour between Pleasant Grove and Farmington. Oh, for me personally,
that's what I'm saying. You got one here, St. George, and you got one 4 hours away.
Farmington and Pleasant Grove.
There's probably another one that's an hour away from that one, and then another one, and it's 4 or 5 hours away from that one.
There's so much space in between those 2 stores where you could put another several locations.
Yeah.
And so you look at a brand that's iconic like In-N-Out,
Mm-hmm.
and their locations are typically so quality. They're outstanding. You're easy off the freeway
Yeah.
on a main intersection. The drive-thru's usually easy to get into, but then you're
Take a ride off of the exit and then take another ride into the parking lot. Usually,
and
or a left and a left, depending on which direction you're
you
headed.
don't see In-N-Out going into the suburbs
Yeah.
and needing to be on every single.
Yeah.
They're not infill. That's not their philosophy.
Yeah.
Let's make it easy, like distribution. Okay. And then keeping their brand. I think their family has always wanted to protect that brand
Mm-hmm.
in a certain way. And I think if you can continue to stretch yourself thin with locations and just put yourself everywhere, you again dilute yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just going and they just put them in perfect distance between each other.
Yeah.
I think it's just,
Yeah.
I love them. I think they're
Fuck, some
fantastic.
people back in the day before they were here in St. George would drive to
It's
Vegas.
freaking insane. They're so
Make
good
a
too.
day trip to Vegas just to go get in and out, and then they'd go do whatever for a little bit and then drive back home. I'm like, bro, that's how you know you're winning, bro.
So
I was driving an hour and a half.
I start looking, if I was going to expand, if and when I expand, Everbowl in Utah, and there's a lot of people in the state that are interested in growing in opening stores up there. But I would follow the In-N-Out model, where you look at it like, let's open quality locations and quality centers versus trying to go and be a shotgun approach, because there's multiple ways to grow your business in the franchise space. Or if you're a single unit owner of, say, you have Trevor Smoothies, right? If you're going to go open,
There's a good ring to it. I do make fucking bomb smoothies.
say, how about
dude.
Terry Shaw's donuts?
Shaw dog giving a raw dog?
Dude,
come get some. Come get some, bro.
So let's say you would go, you're like, hey, I'm opening 15 stores in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
So you could go and just shotgun it, and where you're going, Boise to St. George to Kalispell, right? Or you could fortress it, which might protect you a little bit more. You think of the map as a chessboard, and you're fortressing a certain market so that other competitors can't come in, or if they do, good luck.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about being in kind of like the food category or the restaurant category? Is it just the ebb and flows of, food costs? Is it, like,
I think food costs can be hard to,
because what's your rebuttal to that? Like if I'm on a sales call with you or whatever, and hey, my CPA said don't get in the food and beverage industry or don't get into restaurants. Like I remember that very, very young, CPA, when I started making a little bit of money, he goes, the fastest way to lose $1 million is? I said, well, he says, open a restaurant.
Yeah. So with food costs, you have a certain percentage of your annual sales or of your gross sales that you want to hit, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about being fiscally fit earlier.
Yeah.
So labor, you want to be between X and X. Maybe let's say it's 17 and 23% labor. And your food costs, your menu is created based off of food cost percentage of sales, right? So you're going to build this certain item and it's going to cost you so much versus how much you're going to sell it for, how much you're going to retail it for. That's your margin.
Yeah.
And to control that, you have to have great systems and processes and training in place so that, and portion control with your team. And then as a manager, as an owner, as a leader, you're following up on that. You're looking at that. Then you're having your monthly calls with your controller, with your accounting team to understand.
I love when people don't do portion control as a consumer.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, when that bowl going out is like that big.
Yeah.
There's the fit. That's the T-Shaw bowl right there. Shaw dog going raw dog.
Oh, give me the raw bowl, bro.
So
Spill it over the top.
you order the large, which is $14.49.
Yeah.
Price, by the way. Some people don't realize that.
Yeah.
$14.49 for a large bowl or $11.49 for a regular is like unheard of.
I mean, you're gonna get, jammed up for $15 no matter where you go. You might as well have something that
High quality.
when you eat it, you don't feel lethargic after.
So we know how much each scoop costs, from the acai to the granola, to the fresh fruit to the drizzle of honey and peanut butter.
Yeah.
And it's a certain percentage of what you're selling it.
Well, the thing that's nice about like there's specific restaurants or people in the food industry that I think do it right. The reason why the CPA said that is to get in the restaurants. You're talking big menus. That's what he's talking about, where you're opening up a menu and they've got steak and they've got chicken and they've got pasta and they've got so there's a shelf life to all of those things, right? So the idea is in order to increase your margins, you should reduce the options that you have, right? For instance, In-N-Out does what? They sell burgers, right? Fries and shit.
A number 1, a number 2, and a number 3.
You know what I mean? Like that's really all it is. And so what's the percentage of food waste that they probably have if they're always slapping down burgers? It's going to be very minimal, right? Chick-fil-A does what? They sell chicken. So it's going to be very minimal. So the idea is...
What does Crumble do?
They sell cookies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's flour. It's not going to go back, so it's like, if you're going to open a restaurant, yeah, I could see that. It's going to be far more difficult if you have to have menus that has 60 different things on it.
Very complex.
Very complex, heavy in the back in terms of storage.
Refrigerated items.
And you're talking, the reason why they say, a lot of people in the restaurants say, hey, you're talking about a 5% margin if you're lucky. That's people don't understand this, but restaurants throw away 10 to 20% of their margins every single day because the food goes bad. The nice thing about acai bowls is it's kind of a frozen, you know what I mean? It's going to, the shelf life on that is extremely high. The only thing that you guys do that really doesn't have shelf life is fruit.
Fresh fruit.
It's just a fresh fruit, but at the exact same time, you end up getting a pattern of how much traffic is inflowing and what you need to order, right? And so it's usually like the bigger restaurants that you have a 10,000 square foot space and you have to have huge kitchens and lots of food items. That's where the margins really start dwindling down versus like an Everbowl type thing or In-N-Out or a Chick-fil-A like we're talking about. They're minimizing the menu. Five Guys.
Well, this is a great thing that you brought up because you're like, what's your rebuttal as a salesperson to somebody that's concerned about high food costs? And it comes up. Everything comes up.
Yeah.
Real estate, labor, food costs. How long does it take? Permitting, everything's just costs money. And food costs is one of those things when you're part of a franchise system, whether or not it's Everbowl or it's Firehouse Subs, is those larger brands tend to have a master service agreement with a national distributor where you get to bring the prices down for all items, your entire inventory list.
You're buying in more bulk. They want that agreement rather than
they want your business.
Solo bolo guy over here slinging smoothies.
And
he's not going to get the same prices.
It helps franchisees keep their costs down. And I think that is the beauty of franchising. It really is. Along with
they also understand what you have to sell it for, and if something goes up, they can say, "Hey, this is now our pricing across the board nationwide. Bump everything 50 cents, or whatever it is." Right? So they're kind of watching all.
Let's say a case of bananas for a national franchise is $22, $25 for T-Shaw's smoothies.
Yeah,
it's going to cost you $31.
Yeah,
and let's say you order 10 cases a week. There's $6 times 10. There's 60 times 4. There's 2. You start doing the restaurant math on every single.
You're spending $3,000 a month or $3,000 a year more just in bananas, and that doesn't
now do that
the
times
other
60.
Yeah.
There's all your profit.
Yeah.
So it really helps control costs when you're part of a system. Not that you couldn't, if you had great negotiating skills and you had a relationship with the Cisco rep or somebody local, you could do, there's Instacart nowadays where you can, order from Costco or go to Costco if you want to, just drive there. I did that plenty of times.
Yeah.
Where I'm getting almond milk and agave and oats.
Just when you need something.
And when you need something.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't keep your costs down. So not to talk people out of opening their own individual restaurant.
Yeah.
But it is hard. It's risky.
Yeah.
It's all risky, as Jim Rohn would say. It's all a risky.
You're not getting out alive. It's all risky.
It's all risky for sure. So
I love that.
So there is in restaurants, in food, there's a term that they use and it's called prime. What is your prime cost? And your prime cost is your labor and your food costs added together. And what is that percentage? So that's something that I track on a weekly basis with all of my units. And I highly recommend any restaurant owner out there does the same thing. So if I look at my labor and my food costs, my deliveries that week, am I under, and that month, that year, am I under 55%? Am I under 50%? Because that is the holy grail, is that 50% number. How can I hit that?
What are the other ones? What are some of the other, just the overhead is you got rent, utility.
Rent. So remember we talked about occupancy
10%.
costs, 8 to 12%.
Yeah, or whatever.
So let's call it 12% nowadays.
So if you're at 55 plus the 12%, you're at 67%.
Royalties.
Okay, then you're 6% there.
I'll let you do the math. I do this on the calls.
73%.
Okay. Brand dev, which is marketing.
Which is what?
2%.
So 2%.
Yep.
75% is where we're at.
Yep.
So there's 25% left. There's always odds and ends.
You're going to have...
There's always odds and ends, just random expenses and stuff too.
You may have some debt on that location, right?
Oh, like a loan or something like that.
So let's say right now, if you're getting a loan, an SBA loan, it would be prime plus 2%.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, for every $100,000 you borrow, it's going to be roughly $1,100 a month. So let's say you borrow $200,000.
Yeah.
So bake in $2,200.
Yeah.
And let's call that 5%.
So you're at 80.
You're at 80%. Miscellaneous.
5%. You got to calculate.
You have to.
Yeah. So
legal fees, I mean, that's another, we talked about what's been the hardest thing.
Yeah.
When we were chatting last week when I was in here, I was like, I appreciate like all the, cause so much of like the nuts and bolts of like owning a business outside of sales and marketing. We talk about the culture and stuff. Everybody out there knows that behind the curtain, there's so much that goes on with your accounting team, with trying to drive sales on the back end using SEO, whatever campaigns you're using. And the legal stuff, it can add up. So I would just bake in another 2% for just that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's important to protect your business.
Yeah,
right. So what you're left with is roughly
10 or 15%.
Yeah,
and is considered a decent margin in that type of an industry. So if you're doing $50,000 a month, you're talking about $500 to $7,500 a month in profit.
If you're doing $7,500 a month, and the beautiful thing with this concept, and potentially a lot of others too in this space, whether it's coffee, smoothies, bagels, stuff like that, is I don't need to add more labor to do more sales, if that makes sense. So my overhead's taken care of. The profit goes up.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah.
So once you take care of all of your overhead and everything else is profit.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing.
So I've had months where it's been easily in the mid 20% this year.
Gotcha. So it obviously varies just depending on the season, right? So there's going to be the busy ones, 20%. They might have months where it's 7%. You might have months where it's 15%. Kind of you look at the overall over the course of a year.
And when you're tracking it, when you're staying fiscally fit, when you're tracking it every month and you're being diligent and you're being responsible and you have a good culture and you're not afraid to have those talks with your team and you know what levers to pull. Hey, why am I at 35% food costs this month? My goal is 28, 29. That's 6-7%.
They gave the Shaw Dog scoop.
Dude,
that's what they did, bruh. Shaw Dog. Trevor must have been coming in, bro. That's why.
So what do you do? What would be your first instinct if you're
either people are eating some of the product, right? Like they're starting to dabble, make themselves food, or they're hooking their friends up, or over scooping or over overdoing it. Right?
So
Not
going back
measuring
to being a
properly.
good leader, being a good coach, and having a good culture in your store, when things go wrong, control your emotions, contain yourself, maybe have a little pity party for a second, and then go have real talks.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to posture. You don't have to get mad or go off, but do it in an encouraging way, saying, I know you could do this. I know we could do it.
And
Now, if you catch people stealing, that's different.
Yeah,
But
that's
like
different.
a good leader is going to go in and say, hey, I need to make a change. I need to be responsible. I need to face this and make the corrections and make the change, or else I'm not going to survive this.
I think a good way for people that struggle to have difficult conversations when they're frustrated or upset, or even when they're not frustrated or upset, just in general, if you struggle having difficult conversations, but you should have them, one of the easiest ways to overcome that or address that so that you put yourself in a situation where the conversation has to be had is you send an email or you send a text. Hey, I need to talk to you tomorrow at this time, or whatever it is, right? Hey, we need to have a sit down, whatever it may be. You schedule it. And it's now forced on you to where you and that other person know that there's a conversation going to be had at that exact time. And then if it kind of forces your hand to say, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a tough conversation. I know for me, that's what I did. When I didn't really want to have the tough conversation, it was like, okay, well, I don't really want to have it and I'm putting it off, but what's something that I could do right now that will hold me accountable to having this difficult conversation? I'm going to set up a meeting with them. And so then we're going to be in the meeting and we're going to be on that one-on-one. And then I have no choice but to have that tough conversation. So I created an environment in which helped me overcome this thing that I struggled with. Right.
And if you had a good system in place in order for them to understand, once you've had that meeting and you've talked about the certain topic and the aspect that needs to be improved or changed, they understand the why. They have a background of knowledge.
Yeah.
Of, hey, why is Trevor or why is Brian holding this meeting with me?
Yeah, they know. Usually when you set it up, they know.
Yeah. And if they want to change and improve, they will. And you'll see, there's a term nowadays that the kids use. It's saying lock in, like we need to lock in. And maybe you've heard that. But that's one thing that I'll say now is just kind of, hey guys, I need you to lock in.
Yeah.
On this. Basically like, oh, okay. Got it.
It's serious. You're communicating with them in their language. It's saying, hey, it's serious.
Yeah.
Let's actually get focused. Let's quit fucking toying around.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if somebody wanted to touch base with you in terms of interests and communicate with you about a franchise, do they reach out to you or do they go to corporate or,
they want to reach out to me, they can give me a call.
Yeah.
Or they can go onto the website and inquire under the franchise.
The only person that calls the leads,
depending on what state they are in.
So there's different people that represent different states.
There's some area representatives that oversee Texas, Iowa.
Oh yeah,
several others. Yeah, like Justin and Alex.
Okay,
have the Midwest and some of the states.
So is that because they just have the master franchise rights to that state?
Yeah, they're called area representatives.
Yeah.
And so for myself, I oversee the other 37 states that we're looking to develop. Right now it's, continuing to grow in areas where we have locations, and to kind of piggyback off of the idea of fortressing, because we went with the shotgun approach. Hey, let's kind of grow in a concentric way. I think it's smart. And then, so they can go to the Everbowl website, go into the franchise tab, and then it'll click on that, put in your information. It's just like a quick form to fill out.
Turn yourself into a lead so that you can get a phone call.
For sure. And talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. And don't give Brian too hard of a time. Actually, give him a real hard time. Throw all the rebuttals at him. Make his sales skills come out. But for real, if one, I got, like I said, I got involved just because I believed in the product. I even told you before I had a tough time, overcoming the hurdle of a different option that was not necessarily healthy. And I was like, man, how can I put my money behind this if I personally don't actually believe in the product, right? if I'm a healthy person, but yet I'm saying, hey, come buy my sugary shit. There was just a disconnect for me personally. I felt like out of integrity if I was, doing something like that. So,
well, last time I was here,
yeah,
we were store 40 and now 60, 65 stores later,
yeah,
there's some success there. And I think it's worth people exploring
yeah,
and just learning about it too.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like high pressure situation at all,
yeah,
but it's fun. I
Yeah.
enjoy it. And it's been very rewarding, not just being in the franchise sales seat. That's just like, I do that on Tuesdays,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's the other 6 days of the week that I get to be a business owner and
yeah.
kind of dig in with my teams and be a good coach.
Where you get your face pounded in
Get my face pounded in, dude, just for
and keep showing up, coming back,
relentless.
So some people enjoy suffering as long as there's hope for a better outcome.
Yep.
I think more people need to conform to suffering and what it has the ability to do for them. You know what I mean? There's really no growth without some form of suffering that's involved.
No, it's good.
Yeah, that was good.
That stuck with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. If you guys are interested in Everbowl franchising or just want to hit up Brian and say thank you, his information will be in the show notes. Other than that, keep kicking ass. See y'all next week.